Welcome to Pistons Jack Chats, where I'll have a guest from the Pistons and NBA community join me to discuss your Detroit Pistons each and every week. Before we get started, if you haven't already, if you could please like, subscribe, leave a comment below. It all helps the channel continue to grow. But let's get to it. Today, got a special guest. I have the man behind Pistons Talk, Anthony, joining me. What's going on, man?
Happy that I was able to make it on your YouTube channel. I know you've been on mine a couple of times, so happy I'm making my debut.
Great call. For some reason, that didn't even cross my mind because I feel like we've done a lot of stuff recently. So I feel like we've been chopping it up. So, yeah, making your debut. Man, I'm going to get straight into it. I feel like with the stretch of basketball we've just witnessed from the Pistons in the past 2.5 weeks, I want to say we should be feeling really up and about and positive about this team. But last night, win against Orlando kind of left a bit of a sour taste in everyone's mouth because of the unfortunate injury to Jaden Ivey. We got a couple of updates. But before I get into that, just when you saw the injury occur, like just what was your immediate reactions, thoughts, and feelings?
Immediate reaction was, please don't be an ACL tear or an Achilles tear, because immediately the first Piston I thought of was Brandon Jennings when that happened. When I saw him hold his ankle, that's immediately where my head was at. I was like, please don't be a ruptured Achilles, because I don't know when you were watching the Pistons like during the Brandon Jennings era, and like how he was just playing the best brand of basketball. That's what I thought. I was like, please just be a broken bone.
No, so I'll be honest, like I missed the injury live. I was either, I don't know if it's on my phone or looking at Twitter. I just wasn't watching it for that like particular moment. My girlfriend was next to me and I can't watch these injuries. So I got her to like tell me what happened. And I initially thought it was just gonna be a sprained ankle because I didn't see it. But yeah, it's obviously when Jalen Duran put the towel over his leg, the stretcher, and just the looks on everyone's faces, it was like, man, this is not good at all. But it's interesting, like that was one of the things last night I chatted about on the post game show. I was like, when was the last time we had an injury like this? And it is the Brandon Jennings one. Like obviously Blake's knee, but from memory, was Blake's knee like an in-game thing? Like I can't remember the game like stopping, or maybe I missed it, but
Yeah, the Blake injury, if my memory serves correct, was against the Hornets, and he dove for a ball and he just kind of gimped, but he was just a warrior out there and just finished the game. But like maybe the Tim Hardaway Jr. game was the last time we saw someone get carried out. Obviously, he was in a wheelchair this year against the Miami Heat,
true.
but yeah, if I don't remember Blake getting like carted off like whatsoever. I mean, they basically had to put a stone cold brace for him to even play.
Yeah, well, yeah, that brace is like in the playoff, that's insane. But I do think it's like just in terms of like the feeling. I know the Brandon Jennings one game was in Milwaukee, but just the feeling around it and the reaction, it felt similar to that, at least from my memory. So yeah. In terms of like an update, we got an update from the Pistons PR. So Ivy underwent successful surgery, which is great news, to repair a broken fibula in his left leg. And we'll have an update in 4 weeks, but where he'll be reassessed. But I think I don't want to like be a Twitter doctor or YouTube doctor, but I think it's safe to say we probably won't see him for the rest of the season. Like you want them to take all the precautions, but before we get into how that impacts the team, I wanted to just reflect on the season Jaden Ivey had. I've got some numbers here. Just on the season, he was averaging career high 18 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 46% from the field, 41% from three. Just your thoughts looking back on the season he had so far, like in terms of where you thought he'd be before the season and how he's at this point, like just your thoughts on his season.
I thought, going into the season, he was going to get more opportunity. I didn't know if he was going to start, given signing Malik Beasley, and Malik Beasley, if you followed his career, he was a starter for, majority of his career, but just the season as a whole for Jaden Ivey, I mean, just career highs, progression, everything you wanted, steps in the right direction. It really sucks that he came back from a foot or a toe injury, and then he's shooting the lights out, like over 50% from three, 50% from the field. It sucks, man, because like I feel so bad for this backcourt because, man, they really have not been able to play together. Like Cade had his injury, Ivy has this injury. I think, though, you've seen a big enough sample size where this should be your backcourt of the future, in my opinion, anyways.
I agree. Like, I don't think we'll talk about some of the moves that can potentially be made and that kind of thing shortly, but I don't think this type of injury should lead anyone that was in on the Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham backcourt. I don't think this injury should, mean that you're out. Like, I think from what we've seen from him, like particularly the last 5 games, like I know it's a small stretch, but he was back healthy and looked like the Jaden Ivey from early in the season. Those two together are so exciting. But like you brought up, like not to be too negative, but just the injuries with this young core. Like you miss Cade's whole second season. Jaden Ivey, it feels like he's probably going to miss over half of his third season. Asar Thompson, like some of the health / injury, like with this team and young core, as well as everything around it, it's just been tough. Like,
yeah, I think it's you got to stop selling Allen Iverson jerseys inside of LCA. Like, just stop. Like that's where I'm at. Like it's the curse of the Chauncey Billups trade. That's why I think we've had like such bad luck over the past like 15 years or so.
It's crazy. I know, like, for example, the team the Pistons played last night, like they're without their 2 best players, like Franz and Paolo, both would probably be all-stars this season if not for injury. But just feels like this rebuild, every year there's a major injury. Like, I mean, Killian Hayes even missed
Yeah.
so much of his rookie season with that. Was it a hip injury? Just like your first round picks, it's just like feels like they missed significant time. But like you said, I still think this shouldn't deter anyone from that backcourt. So I guess moving on, like it felt too soon to talk about it in the post game last night, but it's hard to not look at the immediate repercussions of this kind of injury. And I wanted to put it straight to you. What would your starting 5 be like as of tomorrow? And then what starting 5 do you expect to see?
So my starting 5 would be Cade, obviously. I think they'll move Tim Hardaway Jr. at shooting guard, have Asar at the 3, Tobias at the 4, and Durant at the 5. The reason why I didn't put Malik in is I think his scoring is too crucial to not have him off the bench. And you still have Simone off the bench as well. I could understand if you want to put Malik in there just for the scoring and just the spark that he's given the Pistons this year. But knowing JB, the way he does like his bets, he'll probably throw in Malik at the 2 and have Tim Hardaway Jr. at the 3, and that'll be your starting lineup. Like Cade will still be there, Tobias will still be there, and Darren will still be there. That's just what I expect. I don't expect him to make a drastic change. Me personally, I'd rather have Asar out there. If you noticed, his minute restriction has been lifted, so maybe you do throw him in there at the starting small forward spot. Obviously, the big thing with him is the shooting, but I think the way you can get around that is finding opportunities for him to be more of a roller, more cuts. And obviously, having a defender of his caliber out there, I think, does help the team's overall defensive effort on a night-to-night basis.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I'm with you. I think JB probably just puts Beasley in.
Yeah.
And because I think when Jaden's been out, I think from memory, Beasley started all of those games. So that's definitely probably what's going to happen. I'm with you though. I like the idea of putting Asar in the starting lineup. I would actually go Beasley at the 2, Asar at the 3. But I understand definitely the thinking of keeping Beasley off the bench. But with that minutes restriction lifted, I think Asar, he kind of struggled a little bit last night, like just with some turnovers, which was a little bit uncharacteristic, but I think he looks really healthy now and ready to go and play 28 minutes a night, if not more. So, yeah, I'd love to see him start. Like, just him. How fun is he on the fast break? Like, you've been a Pistons fan for like,
Yeah.
you're one of the OGs, I feel like, at least on like in the social community. So, like, who's the last Piston to like him? Not like he's one of one athlete, but I can't think of anyone.
I mean, if you're just talking about just, I feel like every time he's up in the air, he floats.
Yeah.
And just the way he can dunk. I mean, you're probably thinking like Grant Hill.
Yeah.
Like Grant could definitely like put people on a poster. I feel like Asar could have at least 6 posters this year. It just he hasn't been able to, finish the dunks, but like just the type of athlete he is, it's incredible, man. Like the bounce he has, like I haven't seen bounce like that probably since like Vince Carter. It's insane.
No, him and his brother, like, there's something special about the way they like float. Like, it's crazy. And like that's the thing with the starting him. Like, I know a lot of fans, me included, were like, oh, him and Jalen Duran, the spacing. But I just think the way Asar, like just having him back on the court and now seeing it I feel like he's been back for 3 weeks or more now. Just the stuff he can do in transition is so valuable. Like, I don't care if he has the ball or doesn't have the ball. He's running in like the transition. Like, you're going to get 2 points. It feels like an automatic bucket just because of the way he can convert. And I think that's valuable. Like, he can get steals in transition. So it's not a perfect fit on offense, but I'm with you. I'd like to see him in the starting group. And do you think that happens this season? So if JB goes to what we think he will, do you still think that Asar will start this season?
I think it's dependent on his development as a shooter. If he takes steps in the right direction where Ron Holland currently is right now, I think that you could have that conversation, because if you look at Ron Holland's numbers for his first couple of months, like December was probably his best month shooting the basketball. I think that's what Asar would have to do. He seemed a little hesitant last night because he had plenty of opportunities to shoot threes. He just wasn't doing it for whatever reason. But I think as a shooter, he would have to like really earn JB's trust to put him in the starting lineup on a night-to-night basis.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and it aligns with what JB's kind of done. He's always kept at least Tobias and THJ in that starting lineup when they've been healthy, if not Beasley. So, I shouldn't be really complaining about that because the amount of non-spacing lineups we've seen in the past, at least in the Troy Weaver era, like the fact we have a coach who puts an emphasis on it, it does make sense. It's just Asar's just so fun to watch, and it probably doesn't matter if he starts or not, but as long as he's playing those minutes.
I know. As soon as you said no spacing, I thought of Mo Cheeks era with like Drummond, Monroe, and Josh Smith. I was like, it's terrible.
Oh, that was like right at the start of my fandom. I don't think I've ever truly appreciated how bad it was, but I actually saw, now that you brought this up, that season they waived Josh Smith and go on that 7-game win streak or whatever it was. They started like 5-23. I forgot how bad the start was.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Like Van Gundy during that losing streak, every day, it's on me. They waive Josh Smith. They trade Tony Mitchell for Anthony Tolliver, and everyone's like, who the hell's Anthony Tolliver? And Tolliver effect, like they go on that winning streak. They had like Jonas Jerebko, Jody Meeks. Yeah, DJ Augustine, Jody Meeks. They had some OGs on there, like Joel Anthony. Like that was a really fun team. Even though they didn't like win a whole lot, it was just like really fun after they did waive Josh Smith.
It was. I'm trying to think. Is that the longest? It was 7 games, I'm pretty sure. I don't think they've won 7 games since in a row. No way.
They haven't.
They even won. Surely they've had a 5-game win streak. They must have.
I don't know. You're gonna make me go on Basketball Reference after this is done and see.
Surely they've had definitely 7 though. I feel like we can confidently say they haven't had a 7-game winning streak since then.
No.
I did want to just get your quick thoughts as well on the bench rotation, even though I think it's kind of defined. If we go with the starting 5 you outlined, JB will go with, what do you think the bench kind of looks like?
Marcus Sasser, probably a backup point guard, which I don't really like, but I mean, they don't really have any choices. Probably Malik Beasley at the shooting guard position, Ron Holland at small forward, Simone Fontecchio at power forward, and Isaiah Stewart at center, I think would be JB's rotation personally.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely probably the case. And that kind of ties with the lack of point guard play. Like that's been a really big topic now for the entire season, but it's particularly a major issue now because they don't have their second point guard. They have Cade, Marcus Sasser, and I guess Wendell Moore at times has played that role. And they also have, I always get the pronunciation wrong, but I think Dennis Jenkins in the Cruise.
I mean,
is there anyone I'm missing?
I think Bobby Klintman has some playmaking abilities, but he's in the Cruise right now. They're actually playing a game right now, but I'd like to see Bobby Klintman get some kind of playing time. I know, like, Simone has struggled a lot this year, and he's a vet. JB's going to ride with his vets, but I think there's some playmaking flashes. I know we talked about it when you were on my podcast. Like, there's definitely some guard skills in there.
Yeah, no, definitely. With Bobby specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping. Was he active on the bench last night? I kind of missed it amongst everything. Oh, so he's still been with the Cruise.
Yeah, I think he traveled with the Cruise yesterday.
Okay, so because I was going to say the one game I know he definitely would have got minutes was that Denver game, and he wasn't there. I thought maybe yesterday, I couldn't remember if he was on the bench or not, but obviously not. But I agree, like his guard skills is definitely something to help that playmaking. I don't think you'll play him at the point guard or shooting guard. Not that that's what you're suggesting, but he can definitely help out for sure. I was saying to someone in the past day, I was like, I know Pistons fans love their second round picks, but I don't think there's something about Bobby. I don't know if there's a Swedish element to this and the international fan base behind him, but anytime Bobby Klintman comes up, whether it's a piece of content or discussion, like I can't remember people being this excited for a second round pick. Like he was good, but like his summer league was impressive, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Pistons have not done well with second round picks. I know you know this better than anybody. Like you talk about Servetus. Like there was a Servetus hide on Twitter. They thought he was going to be like the next Manu. Jordan Bone had all time like NBA combine records, like vertical speed. Just couldn't really translate it to the NBA. I mean, Pistons fans are complete sickos when it comes to second round picks, man. It's insane. I love Pistons fans though when they talk about draft picks, but like we have to at least get one good second round pick, right? And I feel like Bobby is a first round talent. He just slipped in the second round, and I think add some more weight. You definitely have maybe a power forward of the future, in my opinion.
For sure. No, I think the hype is real. Like I believe in it. Like I remember being so excited about it. Do you remember Kyrie Thomas?
Oh man, yeah,
I was so hyped for him. Don't know why.
I can tell you a funny story about Kyrie Thomas when we hang up on this podcast.
Oh, okay. I can't wait to hear it. But I guess actually comes to mind in that same draft they got Bruce Brown, I think, who was actually very good. And I know that's a touchy subject for a lot of Pistons fans, but yeah. No, Bobby, I'm very excited to see Bobby. I hope we can see him definitely in the next week or so because I think he's going to have opportunity. If he wasn't injured so much this season with that strange calf contusion, like he definitely would have played by now. So the hype is real. I think like if he debuts at LCA, like I'm expecting like some sort of ovation at this point. As long as it's not Jared Goff chance.
Oh my God, don't even get me started on that.
No, we'll go somewhere else. I'll get us back on track here. So the injury kind of leads us as well into the topic of discussion around what does Trajan Langdon do? I think it's been discussion with this roster all season long, whether they're winning or losing. But do you expect now some sort of move to happen, or this injury to trigger a quicker reaction in terms of some roster changes?
So I talked about this yesterday. I think where the Pistons are currently at, Trajan has to be very, very careful of how he wants to build this team for the long-term future. I think if you were, I'll just use this player as an example because I see a bunch of Pistons fans talking about him today. I think if you were to go to trade for Jordan Poole, that's just a short-term solution. I don't really think that's a long-term solution, and you don't want to be attached to the money that he's owed. I don't think he does anything. I believe Trajan didn't think that this team was going to be as good as they currently are right now. Now, if they, competed for the play-in and they were like a 25-win team, that's progress. But they're 15 wins right now. I don't think he's going to go out and try to, address a shooting guard need for this team right now, because I think it would just be a short-term fix. And what happens when Jaden Ivey comes back? Like, are you going to have him as a sixth man off the bench when he was just playing the best ball of his career? You read earlier, like, it was a pretty clean break from the Pistons PR. There was no tendon damage. There was no nerve damage. So he's not going to lose his burst or his speed. He'll rehab and probably come back even stronger and better than ever, because that's the type of worker he is. But I don't think Trajan's going to go out and try to just find a short-term fix when the Pistons are currently the 9th seed in the Eastern Conference. Like, if they were a top 3 seed, Jack, 100%, he probably would go out and try to get a 2-guard to fit next to Cade, but I don't really think they're going to go out and try to trade for a Levine or a Anthony Simons or anything like that.
Okay, well, that was going to be my next question, but I do like how you brought up the Jordan Poole scenario, because I'm with you on that in the sense of, if he makes a move, I think it shouldn't be one that impacts Ivey's future role on the team. Like, he still has a lot to prove in terms of how much you want to invest in him and that kind of thing. But I think from what we've seen, like, there's definitely a case to extend him, or at least, like, if he can get back to next season and play a similar way, like, you definitely extend him and keep that backcourt together. So I wouldn't want to bring in Jordan Poole when you're like, well, now I've got Poole, Ivey. It's just like, and you're going to have all this money tied up in them. And I certainly believe in Ivey more than I do Jordan Poole, even if some people may disagree with that. But what if the Pistons, you kind of said you don't think it will lead to a Zach LaVine trade, but so could you see a scenario where, I mean, I know you put out a report from, I think it was Evan Sidery on Instagram the other day, just around like the Pelicans and what their asking price is. I guess the way I'll phrase is, if they did make a trade for Ingram or LaVine, how would you feel?
Not good. And it has nothing to do with the player. It has to do with the contract that comes with LaVine and comes with Ingram. Now, Ingram, you might be able to get him for really cheap. The Pelicans are not asking for a whole lot. But the caveat to it is he has not been available. And we just talked at the top of the podcast with players being injured on this team. Like, the Pistons do not have a good track record with keeping players healthy. I know they got a brand new medical staff, and, they're going to have their challenges, each and every day keeping these guys healthy for a full 82. But I think it would be such a risk for Brandon Ingram, because they probably want Stewart. They probably want Asar or Ron, a draft pick, and to get out of the cap space hell that they put themselves in. I think, again, that would be a short-term thing. And I think what Trajan and this new front office is looking at is for long-term success. I think if they do make a trade, though, Jack, they're looking for draft capital, and maybe you get a fringe starter that's on a larger contract, but you're getting some assets. Trajan's first trade this offseason was getting Tim Hardaway Jr. in 3 seconds. I think that it's going to be that sort of trade where you get Tim Hardaway Jr., who's been a starter before, was on the Dallas Mavericks, played with Luka. I think it's going to be that type of player where you can insert into the starting lineup and you have some assets to work with in the future.
I'll ask you, I wish I could think of a name, but I do think that's a high possibility. That's why if you go off what Trajan said the entire time he's been here, it's all about being acquiring assets.
Mhm.
And certainly Levine and Ingram go against that in the sense of what you would be getting in return and what you'd be giving up for them. Because even with the Pelicans report, they still want some form of draft pick. So like
Yeah.
whether it's a couple of seconds or a future first, like that clearly goes against kind of what we've heard Trajan say. I would actually be okay with a Levine or Ingram trade. Just based on the fact my big concern is now with Ivy being out and overall, but more so Ivy being out now is like the Pistons that I know Jaden can be inconsistent, but like we just mentioned, he's putting up career best scoring and efficiency. Like he's the Pistons' best clutch player. Like in these close games,
Yeah.
most clutch points. I think he was second in clutch field goal percentage for people that have attempted more than like 3 shots. So that you're losing a huge piece here. Like I know there's frustrations in the fan base sometimes with him, but I'm just slightly concerned moving forward that we're just gonna slide in Marcus Sasser or some guys who like that's my concern because the next place I was gonna go in terms of signings, like man, have you had a look at the free agent point guards or shooting guards available? It is it
I
is
mean,
bleak.
unless you think you're getting Kyrie Irving to come to Detroit, I really don't know, man. Like, I'd love to fit
but
next to Cade, but I mean, I don't think that's a possibility.
But I'm talking about right now, like, because I just think you have to get some, like, you can't just put all of Ivy's usage into kind of Cade and think he's going to get 30 a game. Because then I'm getting worried about, like, he's dealing with knee soreness and,
Mhm.
or shin soreness. I can't remember. But so I just get really concerned that if everything's going to be on him, then how does that look for Cade and the rest of the team? So I guess, yeah.
I think they take a step back, and I think Trajan is relieved that they take a step back because maybe he wants to keep that draft pick this year. Because if Ivy doesn't get hurt, the way they were winning, they were going to lose that draft pick to Minnesota. Maybe this front office is like, it sucks that Ivy does get hurt, but maybe we give herself a chance at a Cooper Flag, an Ace Bailey, a Dylan Harper at the end of the day. I know people don't want to hear draft talk, but I mean, I think it would be really premature to try to just like punt and hope that we could get a Zach LaVine or a Brendan Ingram when it would possibly, get you maybe a top 6 seed in the East, maybe top 5 seed. But, flexibility is something that I think that this organization has had for quite some time. They haven't really made that big move yet because I think they want to have more assets. But I get where you're coming from. Like, it's going to have a lot of stress on Cade Cunningham. Obviously, he is dealing with injuries throughout the season, like any other NBA player is. But I think where they're at, they're pretty happy with the progress with JB and getting these guys to compete night in and night out. You might not win 40 games, but it's a step in the right direction. I know some fans just they want to trade for a guy that can fill Jaden Ivey's shoes, and no one on the current roster can. You're not going to get that burst of speed, the athlete that he is. But I think Pistons fans have to realize is look where you were at before you traded for Blake Griffin. Like, are you willing to really punt on all the draft picks that you've had during this rebuild for the past 5 seasons just for a short-term fix? And let's say it blows up in your face again and you can't, trade that asset that you traded for. Like, Pistons could not get rid of Blake Griffin unless they attached a first-round pick after that injury. I just would really hate for them to, put all their eggs in one basket on a player and then history repeats itself all over again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We do not want to. Like it feels like it's taken almost up until this season to kind of
Yeah.
just get through, and they're still dealing with the after effects of that trade and the way the 2 max players they had to essentially. We spoke about this recently. They got John Henson a second and Brendan Knight because Blake was a buyout, and that's who you got for Andre. And those were your guys you were paying like, I don't know, felt like 60% of the cap at the time. So,
Yeah.
so I definitely get that for sure. I guess zooming out now a little bit, we kind of touched on where the Pistons are at, but Pistons are currently 9th in the East with a 15-18 record. I think that their schedule so far has been heavily skewed on the road. They're now in the middle of a nice homestand here. Won 6 out of their last 8. Just how are you feeling about the team overall? And obviously, it's taking into consideration the Jaden Ivey injury, but just with where they're at right now.
I think overall what I've seen out of them, outside of last night, I thought the turnovers have been completely like non-existent. I think they had a graphic on the screen that they're up there with Boston in terms of like turning the ball over the fewest times in the NBA. I think fans will put a graphic up there during the game, but then they had like 22 against like the Magic, so completely went out the window. But I thought just during this stretch, especially the West Coast trip, playing team ball, that ball is moving side to side defensively. I've really liked the effort. They're learning how to win basketball games. I think it's so crucial for a young team. And I think some fans forget this is like the 4th youngest team in the NBA. Like they're still learning how to win basketball games. And like during this stretch, you mentioned like the last 6 wins out of their last 8 games. It's good basketball. And JB is putting these guys in positions to win games. The only thing I can nitpick, Jack, is these guys cannot play with the lead. It drives me crazy. It's just like you have a 20-point lead, like, nah, how about a 5-point lead? This will be way more entertaining. I call them the cardiac kids because they give me chest pains, man, every 4th quarter. Like I just have chest pains watching this team. I was like, oh crap, they're gonna lose. Oh, they're gonna lose. And then they win it, and then I'm happy. And then I've aged like 15 years because I'm just stressed out. And I was like, holy crap, I can't believe I just ate like a whole bag of candy watching the 4th quarter. I was like, what the hell just happened? But overall, I've been like really, really pleased with the direction that JB has the Pistons in. I mean, they're on pace for 37 wins this season, and they won 14
Really?
last year.
Wow.
Yeah, like that's coach of the year type of stuff, if you ask me.
I couldn't agree more. And you know what's really funny, because I love how you reference them as the cardiac kids or cardiac Pistons, because I would happily take the stress and the near heart attacks that we're getting this season as opposed to last season. Like, that's how bad last year was. But JB's been incredible. Like, wins every coach's challenge, just on this aside there. But the fact he had them at, like, I haven't checked recently, but I'm sure they're around league average defense. Like, I love how you brought up the defense there, because it feels like whatever this season, it's been consistent for the most part, but whatever's happened on this Western road trip feels kind of sustainable. And I know now that's in jeopardy because of such a big injury and loss, but I do have confidence that they can plug some holes and continue to have a positive season, even if they don't make that move, or they do lose some more games than we expected. But to be 15-18 on a pace for 37 wins, like it's super exciting. I guess, like, I wanted to ask you, I've got some more personal questions here just about your Pistons fandom, that kind of thing. But I guess where I'll lead it off with is this team that we've witnessed this season, where in terms of just pure enjoyment and hope, where does this kind of rank amongst Pistons teams for you since like 2008, I'll say? Because I know you've watched the championship team in 04, so I know that's the easy answer, but yeah.
I would probably say they're in my top 3. Number 1, I'll give you, it was the 2015-16 season under Van Gundy when they went 44-38. No stars, Andre Drummond was just like a young Andre Drummond. You had like KCP, Reggie, like that team was really fun. Number 2 was probably the 41-41. Dwayne Casey, Blake Griffin led Pistons, where Blake was playing the best ball of his career. And I had to say, like, Blake Griffin deserves more flowers in the Pistons community for like what he did. Like the type of season that he was having, just incredible. But I would rank this team number 3 because the way they're playing, the confidence in which Cade Cunningham has on a night-to-night basis, and it looks like he's happy and they're having fun out there. Didn't see that in the first 4 years of the rebuild. Didn't see this team having fun. This team looks like they're having fun. Like last night, I know you had posted it. Cade's sitting, clapping And Isaiah Stewart is guarding Jalen Suggs. Man, he's clapping for like 15 seconds, and Isaiah Stewart locks up Jalen Suggs to end the first quarter. Like, I didn't see that in the first 4 years of this rebuild. Like, this team looks like they're having a hell of a lot of fun together. And as a fan, and I'm sure you probably feel the same way, I look forward to each game. Like, last year, I probably scrolled on my phone and displayed on my phone, and I look up, I was like, oh, the game's still going on? Like, oh, we're down 30? Cool. Like, what draft pick we getting this year? 5th? Cool. Like, this year, I haven't even looked at Tankathon this year, Jack. Like, in probably the first 4 years, like, I have not looked at Tankathon. I've looked at the Eastern Conference standings more probably in the last month than I've looked at Tankathon or even draft prospects for that matter.
I couldn't agree more. Like, that is such a good point. Like, I check the standings like every day. That would be something I never ever checked. And definitely I'd be on Tankathon at this point of the season. Like, and I'm with you. I didn't think I've been on it once, but no, I'm with you. Like, every time they're playing or every day they're playing, like, I believe they can win any game. Like, which I think is just huge for all of us who have put in and watched this team for 15 years, because that certainly hasn't been the case. But like, yeah, just watching them have fun, like after that Ivy game winner in Sacramento, like seeing the way they all get around each other and the smiles and like the jokes. But we all love that stuff as fans, and we definitely have not seen that, at least in the past 2 seasons prior. It was pretty bleak. I'm with you in terms of your rankings of teams. I have this team as number 1 just because I think Cade is the best prospect and probably best player this team's had since I've been a fan. Like, he's not better than that 18-19 Blake, but I think he will become that type of player or better for many more years. So that's why they're number 1. But I love that 15-16 team. That's number 2 for me. There was real hope with them as well, and I know it didn't pan out, but it felt like they had a really nice core there. And they had Anthony Tolliver. Oh, was Tolliver on that team? Yeah, Tolliver.
Yeah.
Man, it was so fun. They got Tobias Harris that season, which just was like, talk about giving people flowers. I know people will get on Stan Van Gundy for his drafting, but trades wise, like, maybe he got Marcus Morris for like, what was like a 2nd round pick? Like,
Yeah,
I can't even remember.
That was hilarious because the Suns thought they could get LaMarcus Aldridge, so they cleared cap, and then he goes to San Antonio because Greg Popovich would not let him leave a room, and the Suns were like, crap. Like, we got like Reggie Bullock and Danny Granger, who I would have loved to see Danny Granger in a Pistons uniform because he was the bucket back in the day, but his knees were shot.
That's right. Danny Granger, a Piston, man. Did he actually play though?
No, he got bought out immediately.
Yeah. That's what I was like. I remember that now, but I don't remember seeing him play. But that was a really fun team. And then obviously the Blake one as well. But I want to ask you now, favorite Pistons player of all time?
Oh, Grant Hill all day. That's who I grew up on. Oh yeah, like I was 4 years old during the Teal era. Like, Grant Hill was just a bucket. Also got to give a shout out to Lindsey Hunter, one of my favorite just like role players, like Mr. 94 feet, could lock up anybody. Like, he was just a dog. But Grant Hill for sure is my favorite Piston of all time.
Wow, I thought it was going to be someone from the Going to Work team, but Grant, because I didn't watch any. I wasn't even watching the NBA at that time. The Grant Hill I know was on the Suns. Like, I'm not much younger than you, but I just didn't watch the NBA until later in my life. But talk to me about his game just a little bit, because I've seen a lot of comparisons between him and Cade. And I know there's a lot of stat comparisons, but people have also compared them kind of as players.
I think from the standpoint, they're both point forwards that they can pass, they can dribble, they can shoot. Now, Cade Cunningham in this stage of his career is a superior 3-point shooter than Grant, but the way Grant can manipulate just the game, I just encourage you to watch some of his dunks, man, because he had some mean posters on Alonzo Mourning, Dikembe Mutombo. Like, Grant was that dude, man. I mean, he almost got traded to the Lakers for Kobe Bryant, like, straight up, like in the 90s. Like, he was just that dude. He was supposed to be the next Michael Jordan. Like, that's what everyone was stamping him. I mean, to lead the NBA All-Star in votes as a rookie, like, he was just special, man.
That's crazy. I see. I just that whole era of Pistons and that Grant Hill. Like I need to go check it out. I've seen some of his dunks. They come up during the off season when people are looking for stuff to post. But I need to go back and watch. I didn't know he. That's crazy. That stat about leading the All Star
Yeah,
voting as a rookie.
as a rookie, it's like over like 1 million votes. Like he led all of All-Star voting as a rookie. Like that's
Did,
absolutely insane. But I guess
did
playing at
any
Duke
of
for 4 years helps.
oh, true, true. Did any of his teams make the playoffs or get close?
Yeah, they made the playoffs for consistent amount. I mean, he had a lot of talented teammates. I mean, you can look like him and Allen Houston. I was like really heartbroken when Allen Houston decided to like leave the Pistons. I mean, like that was like a bucket getter. Obviously went to the Knicks. I had Jerry Stackhouse for a little bit. They had talent. It's just they really could not really get to the NBA Finals. It's a
Yeah.
shame though, especially with all the injuries that he had.
Yeah. Well, that kind of ties me to favorite Pistons team of all time. So maybe a season.
I think it has to be the last championship that they had. 03, 04, or 04, 05 Pistons, I should say. That team was just special, man. Growing up as a kid, I was around 12, 13 years old. I feel like everybody in the city, we all went to the Palace. Like you could actually afford to go to a game. Like lower bowl tickets didn't cost a mortgage payment. Like they were affordable to go. I just love the Palace as an arena. You had like Chauncey. Everyone loved Chauncey, Ben Wallace, Tayshaun. And when we traded for Sheed, man, like that was it. Everyone knew we were winning that year. Like everyone knew once we had that final piece, the defense, stepped up a whole nother notch. Like the Pacers could not keep up with the Pistons, and then we had a pretty deep bench and a Hall of Fame coach in Larry Brown, man. Like that team was just special. And there's a reason why to this day we still talk about them because they were the best five alive.
No, it's crazy. You know what's funny as well? So like that 04, 05, that's when I started watching the NBA like very casually as a kid. And I remember thinking like the Pistons were like one of the teams because at the end of the day, like I know the past 15 years have been rough, but they are like a storied franchise in the NBA. Like they've won 3 championships. And I just remember thinking Detroit must have been like one of the biggest cities in the US, just based on like the popularity of the team. Like the arena's always packed. I'm not trying to throw any shade at Detroit, but of it, like there's just this aura about Detroit basketball at that time that just made you feel like someone as an international fan, like this must be like one of the like biggest, most popular like things going on because that team was so like memorable and they had the 5 All-Stars one season. Just yeah. I kind of thought that'd be your answer, but I was still curious.
Yeah, I mean that was the standard though, Jack. Like under
Yeah.
Bill Davidson, who was the previous owner before Tom Gores, like that was the standard. Like Detroit fans expect to make the playoffs, even right now. Like Pistons fans are very loyal when they have a good team and they'll pack out arenas. You put a good product on the floor, like you've seen, they don't even put a good product on the floor and they're still like 13th, 14th in attendance. Like you put a competent roster, they're probably top 5 in the league. Like Pistons fans are so passionate about their basketball team. Obviously, since Tom Gores has purchased his team, they haven't had much or any success. But when Bill Davidson owned that team, they were winning 40, 50 games a year, and they expect to make a deep playoff run. I mean, making 6 straight Eastern Conference finals, like that's not something every NBA team can do. I know the Celtics just did it recently, and it kind of shows you like how dominant they were as a franchise in the early to mid 2000s.
For sure. No, because you think about that Boston team like with Tatum Brown, like it's the like 6 in a row is ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. It doesn't happen. You have to have extremely like deep and talented team to do that
Mm-hmm.
year in, year out. I think I know the answer to this, but I'm still gonna ask it. Favorite moment as a fan of the Pistons?
Favorite moment. So this one might surprise you. My favorite
Okay,
moment
good.
is when they had the second overall pick in the Darko draft, because I thought we were getting Carmelo Anthony. Everyone in the city thought we were getting Carmelo Anthony. Even as a kid, like, talking to adults, like everyone's just like, we're not getting LeBron, we're probably getting Melo. So that was just kind of like the thinking among fans. And then draft night happens and we get Darko, and I think everyone was just like, what happened? Why are we drafting a raw 18-year-old from Europe when Carmelo Anthony just won a national championship with Syracuse? Like, he would have fit so nicely with that go in the work crew. And even like Larry Brown thought they were drafting Carmelo. Chauncey and Rip, they've said, like, we thought we were drafting Carmelo Anthony. And to this day, still a mystery. Still a mystery to this day why they did not decide to draft Carmelo Anthony.
It's crazy. Like, I love that that's your favorite moment.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that at all. You could have told me 10 other things. And I was thinking, obviously, championship, maybe Tayshaun's block. I don't know. Was not thinking that, but I can see why, though. Like, the thought of getting Carmelo would have been so exciting. And then just not only did you not get Carmelo, not Dwayne Wade, not Chris Bosh, Darko Milicic, like, and this is at a time when, like, you got like international prospects, like no one would have known anything about him. Like, now we can just go up YouTube, Google, like you can figure out who someone is if you somehow don't already know. But yeah, that must have just been a crazy amount of shock. Like, who is this guy?
Yeah. When I was watching the draft, obviously, like my mom was dating like a huge Detroit sports fan, and like he literally like screamed, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, I was like, "Who's Darko?" I've never heard of Darko, because I just watch college ball. Like to your point, like we could go right now and like look at all the European stars on YouTube. Like, I was so surprised. I think a lot of Pistons fans were surprised, and they still talk about it to this day, Jack. Like, it's still like barbershop talk to this day of like, what, like, we could have had like a dynasty. We could have had like 3-4 chips in a row if we would have drafted him.
Oh, it's crazy. I won't get into that debate, but because I have a couple more here for you. As a content creator, what would you say? So I'm sure you have a lot of people reach out to you just for general advice or that kind of thing. What would you say, first of all, is like the biggest learning you've had? And also your best piece of advice for someone looking to make content, either full-time or just like a huge part of their life?
I would say don't do it for the fame or the money that you make. If you genuinely love doing it, then do it. A lot of times I'll have people reach out and ask me, like, how much do you make? Like, is this worth my time? Like, right away, I know that they won't stick with it. And I think a piece of advice I would give anyone watching is be yourself and have your own image and brand. So many times I see people try to mimic or copy off of someone successful, not just myself, but I see, bunches of, like, Bleacher Report, for example. I see people try to steal their graphics and then expect to have the same kind of interaction and followership when they've been building it for over 10 plus years. And I think you just have to be authentic, be yourself, and don't try to copy or pretend to be something that you're not. Like, don't create a Jaden Ivey account pretending to be Jaden Ivey. Like, I'll just say that.
That's timely. But I think I must admit that account got me for like 0.5 of a second. Not today. Like, I think it was made a month ago. I remember seeing it and it caught me off guard. But I think that's great advice, because do it because you love it. Because it's like we've spoken about when I was on your podcast a week or so ago. Like, it's a lot of time, and you have to really enjoy it. Like, I enjoy making the content. Like, I enjoy the process, even if it's tedious at times. Like, I really enjoy it, and I couldn't agree more on the branding and identity side of things as well.
Yeah, I mean, you probably noticed this. It's like you have such a big voice in the community that I see other people, talking about it, and they're like, "Where did he come from? He came out of nowhere." I was like, "No, he's been grinding for a couple of years. Like, it's not. He just didn't come out of nowhere and got 10,000 followers overnight. He puts in the work, he puts in the time. At the end of the day, like, I never created my brand because I wanted to get famous. I wanted the Pistons to notice me. It's because I love the Detroit Pistons at the end of the day. Now, if, people follow me, that's great, but I'm never going to beg anyone to follow. I'm never going to beg anyone to collaborate with me on anything. Like, if you want to collaborate with me, that's cool. That's fine. But my thing is, there's a lot of people that are genuinely good people in this community, but there are also people in this community that I personally will not work with because I've seen their true character and I've seen how they treat other people. And you have to be very, very careful. And it's probably going to be a learning process for you where you might, work with someone, everything's good, everything's great, but, behind closed doors, they're talking crap. Like, why does he get to do that? Why is he collaborating with them? Like, when I'm better, like, because I already see it like in, small circles where people are like kind of being a little negative, like towards you. And I was just like, listen, he's working his ass off. He's putting in the time. You're not willing to put in the time, so you shouldn't be talking. At the end of the day, I think people should be very proud to not only being able to talk post-game shows, talk with you on Instagram, being able to follow you, I think is an honor. And I think more people should see that. I just see some people in the community that they're a little salty, and it kind of just, I hate that at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And also say it is a lot of time. And that, like, so that stuff would never affect me because I know and you'd be the same, like the amount of time you put into this, any opportunities that come from it are deserved. So but I appreciate your support. But I think that's such good advice because I like the thing about the money as well. Like, so many I haven't had a heap of people ask for advice, but it comes pretty regularly in DMs, especially on Instagram. How much money are you making? Like, all I just say is do it because you love it. That's it, and everything will come from there. And I'm like you, like I do this because I love the Pistons. It gives me so much joy and a real purpose. And like, I initially, when I started making just like content on Twitter or whatever, like probably 3 years ago now, in Cade's rookie season, I thought I wanted to get into the more NBA journalism side of things. But what I found along the journey is that I actually just want to make Pistons content. It's not to rule out anything in the future, but I kind of found along that journey as well, like that's what gives me the most reward personally and gets me excited the most. So that's the other thing as well. Like, sometimes your journey, you might start with one thing in mind and it changes. So yeah, I think that's great advice from you.
I mean, I did not know I wanted to get into sports media. Like, I was going to school, going to medical school, believe it or not. Like, that's what my grandfather did. That's what my mom did. That's what my grandmother did. I thought I was just going to get into medical school or, go to school to be a medical coder and a biller. But obviously I tried it, was good at it. I was like, you know what? I said, I think I'm just going to create a fan page. And when I created a fan page, Jack, I had like 10 likes on Facebook. And the fact, like, I'd get excited if I got 3 likes on a post. I was like, that's progress. And then you go from 30 to 100 likes or 100 followers. And then, like, you just keep stacking days. And, like, I just saw that you had hit 10,000 on Instagram, and it's well-deserved because you put in the time. Like, I don't think people understand, like, the little reels that you make after each game. I guarantee you it probably takes a good 30 to maybe an hour just to edit that, put the captions on, find the highlights. Like, people just don't really understand. Like, how much, how much time it takes. It's just like, these are, at the end of the day, Jack is putting in the hours. He's in a whole different country and he's doing it. But I'll just end it at that.
No, I appreciate it. I think but just going back to your original advice, I think that's perfect. Do it because you love it. Everything will come from that. And don't just copy directly from people, I think, and expect good results.
I got people in the community doing it to me every day. Like, I'm like, hey, whatever, man. I guess it's flattering.
Well, look, as well, like, I'm one of those people hitting you up with collabs every game. So I appreciate you accepting them. But man, that's gonna do it for today's show. Thank you so much for joining, my brother. It's been really cool just to, in the past month, get to do a few podcasts and streams with yourself. But look, everyone kind of knows where they can find you, but tell the people what you've got going on and anything coming up with Pistons Talk.
You can follow me on Pistons Talk on all platforms. I'm not on Blue Sky anymore because I don't want to run 10 social media accounts by myself. But You can follow me on Pistons Talk. What we have coming up is we're just going to be doing, podcasts, post-game podcasts like yourself, but mine aren't as long. Like it's kind of funny. Like I'll get done with my podcast. I'm done editing my audio to put on the podcast side. And I still see it's like 1, 2 in the morning. And like, I was like, I said, holy crap, he's still going live on a podcast. Like, what the hell is he talking about for this damn long? So I go in, I was like, oh, it's just, the fans just want to talk. But yeah, like yourself, I have podcasts 3-4 times a week, long form content, post game shows. And, occasionally I'll make a rant video, maybe I'll make a rant video about Jared Goff at Detroit Pistons game soon. Who knows?
I love it. Well, thank you so much again, man. And anyone watching, if you could please like, subscribe, drop a comment below, help support the show, support Anthony and Pistons Talk if for some reason you already aren't. But as always, that's going to do it, and go Pistons. Thanks so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and drop a comment below.